Deep in the misty forests of the Pacific Northwest, the air hums with quiet life and something else. A presence that has been part of this land long before roads, before maps, before even names. The tall trees sway gently in the cold wind, their roots sunk deep in centuries of secrets. It's here, hidden between shadow and fog, that the legend of Sasquatch was born. Long before the first explorers ever crossed the mountains, the native tribes spoke of him. Saskets, the silent guardian of the forest. He wasn't feared then, not as a monster, but respected, almost revered. They said he watched over the woods, ensuring balance between man and nature. Hunters left offerings of berries and fish at the edges of the rivers, hoping to earn his favour. Some claimed that when you broke the harmony of the forest, hunted too much, took more than you needed, he would appear, not to kill, but to remind you that you were a guest here. But as settlers arrived, the stories began to twist. The guardian became the beast. The calm eyes of the forest turned into glowing orbs in the night. People whispered of a creature standing twice the height of a man, covered in thick brown fur, walking upright through the fog. They said his footsteps echoed through the valleys, and when the wind was still, you could hear his mournful cry drifting through the pines. Some say the first tracks were found in the late 1800s, enormous impressions pressed deep into the mud, each the size of a man's chest. Camps were found abandoned, fires still burning, tools scattered in panic. One trapper wrote in his journal about a shadow that walked beside him for days, and that sometimes he could hear it breathing. It's strange how the human mind works, how wonder and fear grow from the same seed. The settlers brought their stories of giants, spirits and wild men, and the forests gave those stories a shape. Whether protector or predator, the line between the two began to fade, and over time, Sasquatch became something larger than a myth, a presence, felt more than seen, the heartbeat of the wilderness itself. If you ever saw Sasquatch, truly saw him, you might think for a heartbeat that he was a man, a tall, rough, mountain man, lost for decades among the trees. But then he moves, and that illusion breaks apart. The way he walks, steady, heavy, yet smooth, it's not human. His body seems carved from the same dark wood as the forest itself. Witnesses describe him as towering, 7 or 8 feet tall, with shoulders broad enough to fill a doorway, his entire frame covered in a coat of coarse, shaggy hair, the colour of earth, bark, and shadow. When he moves through the woods, he doesn't rustle leaves or break twigs like we do. He flows, as if the forest bends slightly to let him pass. His face is what haunts people most, human-like, but not. The brow heavy, the jaw powerful, the eyes deep and intelligent, dark amber or red in the right light. Those eyes are what people remember, long after the rest fades. They don't shine with animal instinct, but with something else, recognition, as though he knows you're there, and he's deciding whether to let you leave. The smell is another thing people talk about, a strange mix of wet earth, musk and decay, like old leaves after rain. It clings to the air when he's near. Hunters describe it as a warning, a message to turn back before you see more than you should. At night, he's heard more than seen. Low grunts, strange whoops, long, mournful calls that echo across valleys. Sometimes sharp knocks against tree trunks, a rhythm, perhaps a language. Others have found piles of rock stacked like markers, or branches bent high in the canopy, woven into shapes no human could make. Despite his strength, Sasquatch rarely attacks. Those who've come close enough say he watches from the tree line, silent and still, as if studying them. Some swear he's protective, that he's chased away predators or led lost hikers back to their trails. Others aren't so sure. There are stories of people vanishing after following that low, distant cry into the woods. Whatever he is, beast, spirit, something in between, Sasquatch doesn't belong to our world of light and noise. He's part of the deep wilderness, the half-forgotten realm where nature still holds its breath. To meet him is to glimpse what the forest hides when we aren't looking. The forests that hide Sasquatch are ancient, deep and endless, where mist lingers long after dawn and every sound carries a story. His domain stretches from the Pacific Northwest to the Appalachian wilderness, from Alaska's frozen valleys to the swamps of the South. People say he moves with the seasons, following the rivers and deer trails, appearing wherever the forest still remembers silence. To understand where he lives, you have to imagine the kind of place that swallows footprints in a night. The ground soft and damp, covered in needles and moss, the air thick with fog and the scent of cedar. Even the wind there seems to hold its breath. That's where Sasquatch belongs, in the places untouched by roads, where human voices fade into whispers. His world begins where ours ends. Over the decades, people have found strange signs, enormous footprints pressed into mud or snow, each one longer than a man's forearm, some with distinct toes, others blurred by time and rain. There are casts, hundreds of them, moulded from plaster and stored in basements of believers. Too perfect to be coincidence, too irregular to be fake. Sometimes hair samples are found tangled on bark, coarse and dark, defying analysis. The few tested come back inconclusive, not bear, not human, something else. Then there are the sounds, recordings of screams that echo like pain through the pines, whoops and knocks that seem to answer one another miles apart as if calling across the ridges. Hunters speak of hearing something large pacing just beyond the firelight, breathing slow and heavy, but never stepping into view. When the dawn comes, the forest feels wrong. Branches snapped high, stones stacked carefully beside the ashes, as if someone or something was there, watching. People tell of encounters that shake them to their core. A lone camper waking to find massive handprints pressed against his tent. A hiker glimpsing a towering figure at the edge of the trail, vanishing in a blink. A park ranger, years later, still refusing to enter a certain valley after hearing a sound that wasn't any animal he knew. These stories stretch back through generations, from settlers' journals to indigenous legends, all describing a being of immense power and strange gentleness. Some tribes call him the protector of the forest, a spirit that punishes those who harm nature. Others warn that he is a thief of souls, a shadow that hunts the arrogant. In every version, he stands as a reminder that the wild is alive, and it remembers. Every time we wander too far from the trail, every time we feel that prickle at the back of the neck, maybe it's not imagination. Maybe it's the forest watching through his eyes. And so the evidence piles up like a puzzle with missing pieces. Footprints that fade, hair that tells no origin, stories that stretch across centuries. None of it proves he's real. And yet, none of it proves he isn't. Perhaps that's how he survives. By existing in the space between belief and disbelief, hidden just enough to make us doubt our own senses. In the heart of the wilderness he waits, not as a myth, but as a mirror of the mystery we've forgotten how to see. To understand Sasquatch, you must first abandon the idea that he is simply an animal. The stories describe something far older, a being that exists between flesh and spirit, part of the forest itself. Those who've seen him say his eyes are the first thing they remember, deep, intelligent, and sorrowful, as if he carries the weight of countless years. When he moves, the forest responds. Birds fall silent, the wind stills, even the insects seem to disappear. It's as though nature pauses in deference to its guardian. Sasquatch is said to stand more than 8 feet tall, with shoulders broad enough to block out the sun. His hair is thick and dark, matted from rain and pine sap. Beneath it, his muscles ripple like the roots of an old oak. His strength is unmatched, able to uproot trees, lift boulders, or vanish into the woods with a single stride. But despite his terrifying presence, most tales describe him as calm, even reluctant to harm. He watches, tests, warns. Violence, they say, is his last language. There's a strange duality to him. One moment he is the beast of nightmares, the roar in the night, the shadow that hunts the lost. The next, he is a guardian, guiding wanderers back to safety when the forest has claimed them. Those who've lived to tell their stories often speak of a feeling rather than a sight, a powerful awareness pressing against their mind, a mix of fear and reverence. It's as if the forest itself recognizes them through him, deciding whether they are welcome or intruders. Legends tell that Sasquatch can smell fear as clearly as smoke. His senses are sharper than any creature's. Hearing that catches the faintest whisper. Sight that pierces fog and darkness. If you encounter him, running is useless, not because he will chase, but because the forest will betray you. The branches that hid you will suddenly crack. The air will thicken, and the silence will grow unbearable. He does not hunt like a predator. He observes, judging intent. Those who wish to survive an encounter are told to follow 3 unspoken rules. First, do not stare into his eyes. Many believe his gaze can see through you, unraveling every lie, every secret. The brave who tried have fallen to their knees, overwhelmed by something vast and ancient. Second, show respect. Speak softly, move slowly, acknowledge the forest as his domain. The old stories say he understands sincerity more than language. And third, leave an offering. A carved stick, a piece of food, a song whispered into the trees. It's not superstition, it's a gesture, a reminder that you come in peace. Those who mock the ritual rarely leave the woods unchanged. What truly fuels Sasquatch's strength remains a mystery. Some claim it's the forest itself, that he draws power from the roots and rivers, from the life that hums beneath the soil. Others whisper he's immortal, cursed to wander between the realms of man and nature. Whatever the truth, there's something undeniably spiritual about his existence. He embodies the wild's indifference and its mercy, the fragile balance between creation and destruction. If you ever find yourself deep enough in the woods that your compass fails and the trees all look the same, remember this: the forest is not empty. You're never truly alone there. Move with care, breathe softly, and listen. Because when the silence becomes too perfect and the hairs on your neck begin to rise, it's not the wind that's watching, it's him. Even in the modern age, when satellites map every inch of earth and cameras fit in every pocket, Sasquatch remains unseen, a reminder that mystery still breathes between the trees. His legend has become a bridge between the old and the new, where folklore meets science and belief defies reason. Some call him a relic of evolution, a hidden species that escaped time. Others say he is a spirit of the wilderness, too wise to be captured, appearing only to those who still respect the forest. Across the Pacific Northwest, strange echoes continue to haunt the night. Recordings filled with guttural howls unlike any known animal, footprints too large and too deep to be faked, shadows that move just beyond the reach of light. Scientists call it misidentification, wishful thinking. Yet the locals, loggers, hikers, rangers, speak differently. They talk of the feeling that descends before he appears, the sudden stillness, the sound of branches bending, the ancient hush that makes every heartbeat sound too loud. There are villages that still leave offerings at the edge of the forest. Apples, carved totems, even bits of cloth tied to branches. Children are told to treat the woods with respect, not out of fear, but out of reverence. To them, Sasquatch is not a monster but a watcher, ensuring the balance remains unbroken. It is said that when men cut too deep into the forest, or when hunters take more than they need, his roar carries through the mountains, shaking the night as a warning. Modern encounters are rarer now, or perhaps just quieter. The world hums too loudly with engines and screens. But sometimes, a lone traveller camping beneath towering pines swears to hear heavy footsteps circling their tent. Sometimes, a drone records a shape moving against the fog, too large, too fluid to be a bear. And sometimes, a hiker finds an enormous handprint pressed into soft river mud, the edges still wet. The legend persists because deep down, people want to believe that something ancient still watches over the untamed world. Sasquatch's endurance as a legend says as much about humanity as it does about him. He is the echo of what we've lost, our connection to the earth, to silence, to awe. In a world built on certainty, he represents the unknown, the untamed corner of our collective imagination that refuses to die. We crave his mystery, not to prove it, but to remember that wonder still exists. And maybe that's exactly how he wants it. Because if he is real, if somewhere beyond the ridges and rivers, a colossal figure still walks beneath the moonlight, he does not need to be seen. He already knows that we see him in the stories we tell, in the whispers passed down beside campfires. His power lies not in proof, but in presence. So next time you find yourself standing at the edge of a forest, and the world feels too quiet, stop, breathe, feel the weight of the air. Somewhere among those endless shadows, an old guardian walks, unseen, unbothered, eternal. The last echo of the wild reminding us that not everything sacred needs to be found.